بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. On the honor of Her Excellency Engineer Aisha Al-Abdouli and Dr. Iyad Abu Mughli, Ministry of Environment and Water and Emirates Authority for Standardization and Metrology organize 26th International Day for the preservation of ozone layer under the theme A Healthy Atmosphere, the Future We Want. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, it gives us a great pleasure to welcome all of you and chair to the opening ceremony this evening. On this International Day of the Preservation of Ozone Layer, we congratulate all who have made the Montreal Protocol such an outstanding example of international cooperation, and we urge governments and all partners to apply the same spirit to other great environment and development challenges of our times. Together, we can achieve a healthy atmosphere, the future we want. And now, we are delighted to invite Her Excellency Engineer Aisha Al-Abdouli, Acting Undersecretary of Environmental Sector Affairs, to deliver her speech.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and a very good evening to all of you. It's really a pleasure to see you again today after spending a long day with the sessions that we had. Many ideas, many topics, and many thoughts had been highlighted and elaborated. And I'm sure that, inshallah, when we are going to conclude this symposium tomorrow, we are going to conclude it with a solid recommendations that we can utilize it as a roadmap for the future of the Montreal Protocol and the future that we are aiming to and to protect our ozone layer. UAE today celebrates the International Day for the Preservation of the Ozone Layer under the theme, Healthy Atmosphere, the Future We Want, which coincides with the 26th anniversary of the signing of Montreal Protocol. UAE commitment to the objectives of the Vienna Convention for the Protection of the Ozone Layer and the Montreal Protocol on substances that deplete the ozone layer and its amendments, which came within the framework of UAE commitment as part of the world to participate in the development and application of innovative solutions to protect the environment and ensure its sustainability, affirmed by UAE Vision 2021. UAE had succeeded in achieving the objectives of the convention and the protocol by final disposal of chlorofluorocarbon substances and halos that deplete the ozone layer by 2010. And this success is the result of a proper planning, hard working, and the close coordination and cooperation between all of the stakeholders in the country to achieve this noble goal. The Montreal Protocol, which includes 196 countries, is considered one of the most successful international instruments where member states have disposed more than 98% of the depleting materials before the assigned deadline. This success had resulted in a significant improvement in repairing the damage of the ozone layer, thus protecting millions of people from skin cancer and eye diseases, and protecting many ecosystems around the world, in addition to its contribution to the mitigation of climate change. Estimates show that getting rid of substances that deplete the ozone layer, where most are greenhouse gases, has contributed to avoid the emission of more than 135 billion tons of carbon dioxide equivalents. That success was achieved by the protocol, led to the decrease of the depletion of ozone layer, which began its recovery. Scientists say that the ozone layer could return to the previous state prior to 1980 by the middle of this century if the commitment to the goals of the protocol in the second phase continued in the same manner. UAE had placed a national timetable to phase out the chlorofluorocarbon substances by the deadline of the total final ban, where through this program, procedures were enforced to regulate the import and circulation of such materials, and an inventory of all companies operating in such industry was set by giving them annual quotas, taken into account to achieve the gradual reduction of the quantities imported until the deadline of the total ban, which reduced the quantities imported by half in 2005, then to 85% by 2007, and finally to 100% by 2010. According to the framework of this program, the Ministry of Environment and Water worked to stop the illegal trafficking of ozone-depleting substances in cooperation with the competent environmental authorities and customs authorities in the country, along with the regional office of the United Nations Environmental Program in West Asia, developing the capacity of the workforce on how to reveal such materials and providing special devices and equipment for that purposes in all custom offices in the country. In addition, UAE promoted the importance of the participation of the private sector in the recovery and recycling of refrigerant used in country throughout specific terms and guidelines that ensure the operation and activities of those companies fall within the Montreal Protocol. All coincided with the implementation of a variety of plans, programs, and activities for increasing the awareness at enterprises operating in the industrial sector and members of the community about the negative effect on human health and ecosystem caused by the depletion of ozone layer. With regard to the second phase, the 19th meeting of the parties of the Montreal Protocol had adopted a resolution setting a timetable for the disposal of the hydrochlorofluorocarbon compounds, which had been allowed to be used previously as phase-shifting substitutes, which they have been proven for their severe impact on the ozone layer and the global warming. Under this resolution, the production and consumption of the hydrochlorofluorocarbons compounds in the UAE have been frozen this year at the level of base year 2009-2010, and then will be reduced gradually until the final deadline of the ban in 2040. Accordingly, the Ministry of Environment and Water issued the Ministerial Decree number 33 in terms of regulating the circulation of the hydrochlorofluorocarbons products, where annual quotas for registered companies operating in this field are subject to be reduced at every stage. At a global level, there still are many challenges in managing the environment and natural resources on the road to sustainable development, and we in UAE reaffirm our commitment to work together to pursue our common goal of healthy atmosphere, the future we want. Thank you very much for your kind attention and wish you a very good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Engineer Aisha Al-Abdouli. We would like to introduce Dr. Iyad Amamogli, Regional Director of UNEP Ruwa Office, to deliver UNEP's message on the International Day for the Preservation of Ozone Layer.
Assalamu alaikum, masā al-khair. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, the Ozone Preservation International Day is next week, and the official statement of the Secretary General will be released in due course, probably on the 13th. So let me share with you some ideas. First of all, I am very pleased to stand before you today on the occasion of the International Day for the Preservation of the Ozone Layer. This annual event that celebrates the achievements of governments, industries, the private sector, and individuals, and all of our partners in achieving the goals set forth by the world leaders through the Montreal Protocol. On behalf of UNEP and the Secretariat, I would like to share with you a statement prepared for this occasion. The United Nations Environment Programme, UNEP, has welcomed an agreement by world leaders at the G20 summit in Moscow that was held last week to renew efforts to tackle climate change by reducing emissions of potent greenhouse gases known as hydrochlorofluorocarbons. Governments from 25 nations and the European Union agreed that phasing down the use of HFCs carried out in parallel to reductions of carbon dioxide emissions under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the UNFCCC, will make a vital contribution to tackling the effects of climate change. As you know, HFCs are widely used in refrigerators, air conditioners, and industrial applications as replacements for ozone-depleting substances, being phased out under the UN's universally ratified Montreal Protocol on substances that deplete the ozone layer. HFC emissions represent less than 1% of current total greenhouse gases, but their warming impact is considerably stronger than CO2. If left unchecked, they could account for up to nearly 20% of carbon dioxide emissions by 2050. According to UNEP, fast action on HFCs and other non-CO2 pollutants could cut the rate of global warming by up to 0.5 degrees Celsius and reduce crop losses by over 30 million tons a year and save millions of lives through fewer respiratory illnesses. Mr. Achim Steiner, the UN Under-Secretary General and UNEP Executive Director, said, "A sense of urgency and a willingness to act down multiple tracks is of the essence. While many countries can point to positive action in response to emissions and transition to low carbon, resource efficient and inclusive green economy, the stark reality is that levels of pollution in the atmosphere continue to rise with all the risks to the lives, livelihoods, and the global economy that entails." In the G20 Leaders Summit and the declaration, governments agreed that the success of the Montreal Protocol, which has overseen a 98% of all global consumption of controlled ozone-depleting substances and contribute to tens of millions of cases of avoided skin cancer, should be harnessed to phase out HFCs. Climate change will continue to have a significant impact on the world economy, and cost will be higher to the extent we delay additional actions. We reiterate our commitment to fight climate change and welcome the outcome of the 18th Conference of the Parties to the UN Climate Change Conferences. We also support complementary initiatives through multilateral approaches that include using the expertise and institutions of the Montreal Protocol to phase down the production and consumption of hydrochlorofluorocarbons, based on the examinations of economically viable and technically feasible alternatives. President Obama of the USA and President Xi of China agreed to establish a contact group on HFCs under the Montreal Protocol to consider issues related to the cost effectiveness, financial and technology support, safety, and environmental benefits. UNEP, in partnership with over 60 countries and organizations, is working to phase down the use of HFCs and other substances known as short-lived climate pollutants, including black carbon or soot and methane under the Climate Clear Air Coalition. Under a business-as-usual scenario, UNEP estimates that by 2050, HFCs could be responsible for emissions equivalent to 3.5 to 8.8 gigatons of CO2. This is equivalent to the total current annual carbon emissions from transport, estimated at around 6 to 7 gigatons. Short-term pollutants need to be complemented by deep, rapid cuts in CO2 emissions if the global average temperature increase over the 21st century is to be held below 2 degrees centigrade. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to thank you all and all of our partners and the governments, and especially the government of the United Arab Emirates, for hosting this celebration, and wish the next year we will come to celebrate the design and development of new alternatives for the refrigeration system in our area, especially the hot climate one. Thank you very much for the evening and the celebration, and I wish all of you success and congratulations for all who contributed to the work of today and hopefully tomorrow. And I agree we should look at some outcomes and celebrate them and track or establish a roadmap for achieving the outcomes of this conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Iyad Abu Maghli. The time has come to honor the partners, speakers, and national ozone units for their efforts for making the third regional symposium on alternative refrigerants for air conditioning industry in high ambient temperature countries successful event, and for their effective role in the preservation of ozone layer. May Her Excellency Engineer Aisha Al-Abdouli join us on the stage. Firstly, organizers. United Nations Environment Programme, UNEP. Ashri Falcon Chapter. Secondly, co-sponsors. IIR. Jiraya. UNIDO. Thirdly, speakers. Mr. Dieter Colombo from IIR. Ms. Andrea Vijot from